even birthing. There was a time we wasn't even able to be in the hospital. We wasn't even allowed to give birth in the hospital. So, we had to do what we had to do at home. And that's where the midwives, they've always, midwives and doulas always around to help with the childbirth, and knowing which herb is going to help you.
This is good stuff. I'm enjoying this conversation. There's a lot that I've learned this evening about a doula that I didn't know, and that's for sure. I hear about a doula, but just knowing about the root and all that you offer is truly amazing. Someone has a question, but it's lengthy. Go ahead and ask. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, cool. So I actually am already like in a doula school. Due to like life circumstances, it's taken me about like 2 years, but I think partly it's because I feel like the information that I'm getting from the instructor isn't, I don't want to say like, I want to know and support my race a little bit more. And not saying that I would ever outcast any female because we all need help, but I don't feel that I'm getting the proper information. So in this instance, like she's also in Texas. I live in New Hampshire, so it's very hard, obviously, to know sources. But I just feel really disconnected the past 2 years. So I was just wondering, with everyone already being in the particular field and having experience, what you would suggest for someone if they don't feel that they are like happy with the choice that they made for doula certification. And I did pay for my full tuition already, but I'm hoping that being how mature I am, going to her and being like, hey, I just feel that it's not working, but I'm not really sure how to like present that and be professional. So just my question.
I think just saying that. I mean, just saying that you don't have to say all. Just say that you're not feeling complete with the training, and that you would like to end the relationship. So if there's a way, I don't know, is it non-refundable? Me personally, I feel like life is too short to waste your time, and this field is extremely important. So I mean, like, we're dealing with people's lives, and people relationships. So it's really important that you really get the information that you learn. If it's non-refundable, I mean, it's your choice to go ahead and continue it, but I will definitely go and learn from someone who looks like you. And that's one thing that's really important to me. Like, even though I'm sure my teachers go and learn from other people, but it's something about when you learn from somebody who looks like you. It's an ancestral connection, and this is ancestral work. Like, it's a DNA, it's a calling. It's not like, oh, you wake up and say, I want to be an electrician, or I want to be a plumber or something. This work, because you're dealing with spirits, like, that's the truth. And so it's something that you have to do. Like, and then a certification, honestly, I know that I certified. A certification is really just validation. I was already a doula before I got certified. I just wanted to go through a certification so that I can get more information and learn from somebody, like you said, like me, that looked like me. And I was determined to not go with any other company. So I sought out with only Black doula trainings. So she said cultural competence, it matters, and you need to be able to connect to Black moms, and getting that in training from someone like you, will empower you on a much bigger and different level. Yes, it's really true, because for one, they don't even understand the mistreatment that we have in the hospitals. And I'm telling you, I see it. Whether a woman is paying with cash, whether she has the best insurance or Medicaid, whether she has a baby daddy, whether she by herself, whether she's married from an affluent family, I see the mistreatment consistently. I see the microaggressions, as they call them. That's just the reality. And so I would encourage you to look to research into medical apartheid. It's a book. It's also some information online. You can also look at my Off in the 21st Century on YouTube, because we really got to know what's going on with what's going. We really got to know why the hospitals were created. You know, experimentation, like all of this stuff is really true. I mean, it's a lot. If you can learn more about stem cells, but I get into that on my training. I really don't want to talk about that in public, like, but I get into that like seriously in my trainings, and I have to actually like make sure that you're gonna be ready for it. You know, it's not trying to be racist, it's the reality. Medical racism is real. And okay, why is it that Texas is one of the worst places to birth a child? Texas, New York, Mississippi, you can pick all of them. Why is it that there's certain countries and so-called underdeveloped countries in Africa that have a better mortality rate than in this country, when we have all the fancy hospitals? These hospitals, I just passed by Baylor Irving. Man, it looks like a mall. It's really nice. We got the fanciest hospitals. We got all this insurance. We got the Medicaid. We got all this special equipment. We have all these special doctors. We have supposedly the best, and the United States is the worst place to give birth for any woman, and specifically black women. And black women have, I'll say black people, the infant mortality rate and maternal mortality rate is more than 3 to 4 times. It's a lot, and it's alarming. I mean, even when I was looking on YouTube, that's why I created my YouTube channel, because I didn't see our representation on there. But I even saw other people of other races. Like, why are black people not talking about this? Yo, this is a crisis. Just like police brutality is a crisis, it's also a crisis of our babies not dying. And they can say we don't eat well. Okay, that's true. But I know some other people who they don't eat well too. But we are treated totally different. And our stress level is a lot higher just because of the skin that we're in. So it's very important for us to make sure that we do everything we can to support our women, because you're not being a doula so that you can stand by and see our women be abused, which sometimes it kind of, it kind of happen, because if she say yes, and it's kind of like, what can you do? But when you giving them that information to help them, that's why I'm like, I love talking to the ladies at the maternity home, because it's just like, sometimes they're like, well, I got a doctor, what I need you for, like that. And then when I start talking to them, like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Or, yeah, I'm not telling you what your doctor is telling you. It's a business. So if I'm saying, no, you don't have to get an epidural. You don't have to let them, break your water. All this is cutting out on their money. And what we have to understand is the hospitals is a business, just like a hotel. Those rooms need to be filled. Those hospital those rooms need to be filled. And there's also a morgue in there. So you can't tell me that there's not a quota of morgans, of the morgue, and to getting into the organs. That's what I was trying to say next. Like, I mean, that's a reality. Sex trafficking, the organ trafficking. And it's mostly melanated people that are a part of that. So that's the reality. I keeps it all the way real. And we got to know that this is important. And we have to be educated. And race is something we cannot be afraid to talk about, because that's the number one reason why we have so many complications, and why we have this high, I mean, when you look at those numbers, And I know we say, brown people, yeah, their numbers are lower than ours. You know why? Because they keep their cultural traditions. They keep their cultural traditions. And I know they got some underground midwives, but they keep their stuff within their culture. Breastfeeding is nothing, and it's too many times we go into the hospital, they automatically believe that, oh, a black mom is not going to breastfeed. If you can't breastfeed, there's milk sharing, there's donor banks. So we're not trying to get on anybody who for some reason can't breastfeed, but breastfeeding saves lives. And the importance of breast milk, that's a whole nother webinar. That's liquid gold. It's women that's paying their mortgages off of their breast milk. That's how important it is.
Wow.
And it's really affecting our population because it's women that are afraid to get pregnant because they think they're gonna die. And that's the number one reason women say they want a doula. I just don't want to die. Why should that be the first thing when you think about bringing in life is I just don't want to die. All right, y'all. Sorry to go
Yeah,
off.
we need a whole other seminar just for you to go into all of that.
Yeah,
This
sorry,
one had a
y'all.
question.
Yes, please, please, please don't play around with your education and learn from. I will only.
Well, she actually had kind of touched on it. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, it was regarding the history of birth, and that in the history we've been birthed since the beginning of time, however that looked in the beginning up until now, and hospital births are only 150 years old. So that whole construct is definitely experimental. And so, if you are watching and paying attention and you are aware,
Wow.
the majority of women that end up in quote unquote emergency C-sections are typically healthy women. So they're practicing this technique on women who actually are healthy enough to go through the procedure because they don't want to deliver the baby vaginally because it loses, not that having a C-section loses your value of your birth, but it changes your birth experience and your birth outcome and the value of having a vaginal birth.
And population control because you can't have a lot of children. You can't have a lot of children.
Exactly. It reduces your chances of having multiple kids. It increases your risk. Now we're in this VBAC phase where we're really pushing for women to be empowered to try a vaginal birth after a C-section. I learned a little bit about that. But we talk about this from the womb to the tomb. So she mentioned you have a hospital with this L&D floor, and on the bottom floor is a morgue. So who is that designed for? You know what I mean? Like, I'm on it. Like, I'm very much in tune with what she's saying, and not just from a trend perspective, but from a historical perspective. How can we save our people? How can we save our moms to be able to be available to nurture their children, their sons, and their daughters? Like she talked about the breast milk. Why? How are these women selling their milk? You know what I mean? Like we know that there's a situation where there's abundance and there's this oversight, but you're not feeding your baby, but you're being reached out to sell your breast milk. You're targeted, different, there's, different things on that. So yeah, she just kind of piggybacking off of that whole history of the setup of hospitals, and how the cultural aspect of all of our education has to be there. We have to know what's going on culturally. We have to understand the history of our culture so we can better, educate and serve, who we are. So yes, sister, whatever it is you're being taught, it ain't setting right with you. Let's put some money together and give her refund if that lady don't give her money back, because that's
right.
Have an